Okay, for this CV joint drive shaft removal, you're going to need a 30mm socket. This is a multi-point socket, which means it isn't like your normal one. It's got loads of points inside. So this is the first thing we're going to need. As you can see in there, it's got loads of little points inside. That's what fits the nut on the end of the drive shaft itself. Now make sure the car's on the floor when you do this. This is the time to loosen it when all the weight is on the floor. So just loosen the drive shaft, the center bolt here, just so when you actually come to releasing it, it's a whole lot easier. Now it's time to jack the vehicle up. Always jack it on the jacking point. I'm jacking on the jacking point. You might not be able to see it, but I am. And use axle stands, because safety first. You don't want no problems. You don't want nothing dropping on you. So use axle stands. I'll put the axle stands underneath the subframe itself. I might have to do a video about how to do that one day, but it's all pretty simple. I'll put 2 axle stands down. Now with your 17mm socket, undo the tyre. I've got this impact socket driver, which is excellent. It's a godsend really. It just helps just take a little bit of the spinning backwards and forwards and off. So just undo them with your 17mm socket and take the wheel off. Now it's important to remember that if you've got alloy wheels, you will need your locking wheel nut. So really and truly that should be the first thing that you look for. Make sure you've got your locking wheel nut to remove your wheel, or this is all pointless. So just a point of reference, get your locking wheel nut and make sure you've got it. When I remove them tyres, I put it underneath the car, just additional safety. Now I'm going to continue with removing the centre bolt from the drive shaft itself. Now you don't have to use this, you can use anything, you know, I'm just using the socket because I've got it. But yeah, just remove this just to make sure when you're moving it you can loosen it up. You can spray some WD-40 in there to help loosen it up as well. Okay, this is underneath the actual wishbone itself. You can see the brake disc just to your right. Now you've got them 3 bolts, the triangular formation. You need to undo them with a 13mm socket. It's very simple, very easy, just undo them. Now sometimes these can break on the other side. If that happens, you have to Dremel it and cut it off. But if you spray WD-40 on the side, it all helps. And using the impact wrench, that helps as well. So just undo these simple 3 bolts and we move on to the next step. Now this part's not essential, but I just like extra space. Now removing the inner wheel guard. Now very where you see I'm actually aiming under there, just underneath the actual car itself, there is actually a Phillips screwdriver. It's all simple stuff, just remove the Phillips screwdriver and then it's got a couple of grommets to help pull it down. But I've done this for the extra space and you know also to give you a better visual on what's actually going on. But you do whatever you find suitable for yourself. Now what we're going to do is sticking the screwdriver in the vent of the disc so it doesn't move. As you can see, I've got an N10 socket and you put that straight into the inner shaft, Now I started this by just getting it in there and undoing them, just cracking it open maybe 1 or 2 turns, just so you've got it loose and just go around the whole drive shaft in that sort of sequence. Just loosen it so there is no strain on one particular part of the drive shaft. You don't want to break no bolts, you don't want to add any extra stress. So just crack them all individually, 1 each, go around the edges, and then once you've done that, you can loosen properly with whatever you've got. So if you've got a socket set, a normal socket set, just use that. But I was lucky enough to actually have, well, as you know, I've got the impact wrench, so I just undo it with that. Now it's important to also remember that when you come to putting them on, you will need your torque specifications. You probably need a torque wrench and torque it to the correct specifications, which I will try and put in a link in the description. But as you can see, it's all pretty easy. Now one thing I would advise is don't take shortcuts with using the incorrect tool like a Torx bit. A Torx bit won't work on this and it will only round out the inside of them bolts. So use the correct piece. Use the M10 spline piece. If you have to go and buy it, go and buy it. Do not take shortcuts here because anything that goes wrong here you don't really want to fix because it's so integral and locked inside small spaces. So make sure you've got the correct tool. As you can see, I've loosened it and it just comes off like that. Okay, so we're screwing back on the bolt to help us remove the drive shaft from the actual hub itself. So what I've done here is I've screwed this on. It's a common technique. You screw it on and then you hit it. You can see it's not quite flush, it's a little bit away from the actual end of the drive shaft itself, because if that gets hit, it will mushroom. Now I'm actually just knocking it. I'm just knocking it just so it just creates a little bit of a vibration and just starts to loosen it up. I don't want to hit it too hard because I don't want to damage the bolt itself. So I'm not hitting too hard. So that's what I'm doing here. See here, I'm just using the hammer just to tap the ball joint out of the out of the wishbone itself, so I can gain access and create space for it to actually come out properly. So just give it a little tap. You don't want to hit nothing too hard here. You're just trying to just get things out. You've got to remember it's all rusted in and it's always exposed to weather and stuff, so it tends to seal up around there a little bit. So just give it a little knock and help it out. Now with my long reach extension, I'm just using that just to hit the center of the actual drive shaft itself. Now what I tend to do with this, what I found works for me, is because I'm using the extension, it doesn't have a pointed end, is just to leave that nut on there just to give it something to guide it in. So that's what I've done there. So I've just used that as a guide and I'm just hitting it through there so it doesn't slide off to the left or right. Now remember, once you feel a little bit of movement, then you can progress onto just removing the nut itself and hitting it, knocking it straight out. So now here's me just giving it a few more taps because it's just holding in. So, you know, just take your time, be patient, don't hit too hard, don't hurt yourself, and make sure there's space behind the drive shaft and it can move. So look, here you can see it's pretty simple. It's going to need a bit of wiggling and stuff, but it will fall out. Quite normal. There you go, a little pull and a twist, and there you go, it comes out like that. That's how simple it is to remove your CV joint or your drive shaft. Hope that was clear, hope that helped. Thanks for watching.